I think the church has a love deficit in general, at every level. So whatever it is that's going on in the church that's not right, it's going to be founded in a love deficit. So what do I mean by that? If they're demonizing and ostracizing the LGBTQ community, that's a love deficit. If they're telling people that they're a worm and they're worthless and you don't deserve this grace, but Christ died to give it to you and you should be grateful because you're not worth anything, that's a love deficit. If they are not standing up for the immigrant and not treating them humanely and are okay with them being treated inhumanely, that's a love deficit. If they're celebrating acts of war, whether that is the issue from January the 6th or things happening overseas like bombing other countries, and they're okay with that, if they're okay with not having common sense gun regulations and it doesn't bother them that somebody could buy a gun without a background check and then come into the school and shoot up a bunch of children, that's a love deficit. As far as I'm concerned, every single thing that the church is failing in is an issue with love. Even Jesus, I don't have the words verbatim to put out there exactly, but there's a scripture, which is, I base my book on The Church and Go to Hell, so I should know it verbatim, but in general, he's saying, you paid the tithes, and you did this, and you attended the feast, but you neglected the weightier matters. And then he goes into loving and helping the widow and this and that. And that is an age-old issue with the church that still has yet to be resolved. I believe it'll be an issue forever until people decide to love more than they hate, love more than they judge, exalt their love over their discomfort, because sometimes love is uncomfortable. But if you believe in Jesus, if that's the one you say you believe in, now for those who are atheists or agnostic or whatever the case, but if you believe in Jesus, you have to figure out how to love uncomfortably. And what does that mean? You really have to figure out how to love people who don't love like you. You have to figure out how to love people who don't look like you. You have to figure out how to love people who don't believe like you. You got to figure out how to love people who don't live like you, who aren't educated like you, who don't make the kind of money you make, who don't live in the neighborhoods you live in, who don't drive the cars that you drive. You really got to figure out how to love people you don't like. And that's uncomfortable. And I feel like the church has a real problem and issue with being uncomfortable on a regular basis, but that's what ministry is. Every day that Jesus walked the earth, he was uncomfortable. He tell you in the scriptures. All up until the time he died, he was extremely uncomfortable. And how is it that we're okay with the uncomfortability and discomfort of Christ, but we're not able to humble ourselves to that level of discomfort? And that's the issue that the church has. We have to be willing to be uncomfortable, period.